Alright, you 11s, welcome back to your second abortion video. This time we're going to be looking at what do religious people believe about abortion, and it's surprisingly not as straightforward as you might think. So, onwards and upwards. Right, so the first big issue, before we even look at what religious people say, is establishing the various points at which people might think life begins. The first key word you've got there is conception. Now, conception refers to the point when the sperm fertilizes the egg, as you can see in the picture. You may have come across that in biology. Also, it's why we have the word contraception, which means to stop conception, essentially, which is what the condom does, and the pill, and so on. Now, some people believe that it is at that precise moment that life begins, that the end product of that, the embryo, the fetus, which turns into fetus, is life. However, some people will say that the moment you're born is when life begins, and actually before then, you're just a series of cells growing in a womb. Some people might lie further along down the line towards birth. Some people might be closer towards conception. It all depends on your own background, your own beliefs. But it's important you are aware that life doesn't just begin at the same stage for everyone. Everyone has their own ideas. Now, for the first of the two Christian views we're going to look at, we'll focus on Catholics. Based on everything else you've done about Christianity and Catholicism in particular, it's probably no surprise to you that they are against abortion. Now, one of the reasons is because, as far as they're concerned, life begins at conception. And the Bible, especially in the Ten Commandments, says, do not commit murder. Now, if life begins the moment the sperm fertilizes the egg, then you are ending life by getting an abortion. And so Catholics would tend to say that the whole process is murder. But that's not the only teaching that encourages them against abortion. Another quote from Psalm 127 says, children are a gift from the Lord, they're a real blessing. By having an abortion, you're ending the life of a child. And if children are a gift from the Lord, you're basically shoving that gift back at God, which is a bit rude, or as some people might say, a bit out of order. And then finally, we've seen that quote in his image before. God made man in his image. And so if we're made in the image of God, who are we to get rid of God's creation? Right, for the second Christian view, it is really important you remember that not every Protestant is going to agree with this. There are going to be some Protestants that would disagree with what I'm about to say. So when you talk about the Protestant view, either in your exam or in class, make sure you say some Protestants. Now, for the more liberal Protestants, the some Protestants we're talking about, they believe that Jesus taught us that love is the most important thing in the world. And this is clear and evident in the phrase that we've used so many times, that Jesus said, love thy neighbour. It could be argued then that aborting a fetus is the most loving thing. This could be because the mother can't offer the unborn child a good quality of life. It could also be that perhaps the child itself wouldn't have a good quality of life due to disability or any other extreme handicaps. This doesn't mean that they accept abortions in every case. They would use a similar criteria that we discussed in the previous video and will have looked at in lessons to help establish whether or not they agree. But then that's more of a personal choice. And remember, when we look at religious views, just because you find out that one religion thinks a certain thing, it doesn't mean that every single follower of that particular branch of religion is going to feel the same way. Right, and when it comes to Islam, you might be surprised at the video. In my experience at teaching, most people seem to think that Muslims are against abortion just because they assume that they're going to be stricter, possibly more harsh, and therefore would be against it or by default. What is interesting is, as far as Muslims are concerned, they believe that we become a life, a living being, at the age of 17 weeks or 120 days within the womb. And it's at that point a process called ensoulment happens. And they believe that that's when Allah breathes the soul into a fetus to turn it into a person. So it goes from being a fetus to a person. Now, once again, like I said before with the previous view, it doesn't mean every Muslim agrees with abortion. In fact, there will be some Muslims that disagree with it. And we're going to have a look at a little quote in the next part of the video. Right, so the Quran says, "You shall not kill your children for fear of want. We will provide for them and for you. To kill them is a grievous sin." Some Muslims take this to mean all abortion's wrong, regardless. However, there are a lot of Muslims that would say that an abortion is okay under the right circumstances, like if it's going to have a big effect on the mother's or the unborn child's health. Getting rid of a child just because you don't want it, a Muslim would say is wrong. In fact, most Muslims would probably agree with that. But, you know, generally when we're talking about abortion from an Islamic point of view, you are okay to say most Muslims accept an abortion up until 17 weeks, as they believe that's when ensoulment happens. And the Quran teaches that you shouldn't get rid of a child for want. Right, so my PowerPoint checklist hasn't exported properly into this app that I've used to make the video. So there's one part missing, so you'll just have to listen very carefully for it. For your lesson, you need to make sure you know what conception and ensoulment mean. You need to know why Catholics are generally against abortion, why some Protestants might support it, what Islam teaches about it. And as usual, make sure you've rewatched the video. If you don't get anything, check with a friend or come see me, but do not wait till the lesson. Don't forget to fill your summaries and questions in. And finally, I didn't mention this at the start, everything that's been mentioned in the last two videos is what different people feel about abortion. These are not my views. I've never shared my personal views on abortion. And likewise, I wouldn't expect you guys to either have an opinion of your own or to share it. You are entitled to your own opinion, and that is private to you. If you feel comfortable sharing it, then that's fine. But if you don't, then that's also fine. I'm not happy sharing mine because I believe it's personal to me, and therefore you keep your views to yourself. See you later.